I'll be honest with you. 5 years ago, I was that gardener who thought I had it all figured out. My garage shelves were lined with colorful bottles of synthetic fertilizers, pest sprays, and miracle growth formulas. I measured success by the size of my tomatoes and the greenness of my lawn, and I fed my garden like a patient hooked up to an IV drip. But here's the truth nobody tells you when you're standing in that garden center aisle, credit card in hand. I was slowly killing the very thing that makes plants thrive. I was destroying my soil. My transformation didn't happen overnight, and it certainly wasn't planned. It started with a frustrating observation that I kept dismissing. Despite my religious fertilizing schedule and pest control regimen, my plants were becoming increasingly dependent on these inputs. Feeding. The leaves would yellow within days. Skip a pesticide application? Aphids would appear like they'd been waiting in the wings. I was trapped in a cycle that demanded more time, more money, and more chemicals every season. The real turning point came when I sent my soil off for testing, expecting to celebrate my perfectly balanced NPK numbers. Instead, the results showed something alarming. My organic matter was nearly depleted, my soil biology was essentially non-existent, and the structure was so compacted that water retention was abysmal. I had been feeding my plants while starving my soil. It was like giving someone vitamin pills while taking away their ability to digest food. When I started researching soil health, I felt like I'd discovered a secret world that had been beneath my feet all along. I learned that a single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on Earth. These bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes form an intricate food web that does something synthetic fertilizers never could. They create a living, self-sustaining system that feeds plants exactly what they need, when they need it. The synthetic fertilizers I'd been using were like fast food for plants, providing quick energy but no real nutrition. Worse, they were salt-based, and those salts were literally killing the beneficial microbes in my soil. The pesticides I sprayed weren't just eliminating harmful insects. They were decimating the very organisms that could have protected my plants naturally. I had been playing God in my garden, but I was terrible at the job. Switching from chemical dependency to biological soil management wasn't as simple as just stopping the chemicals and hoping for the best. I had to rebuild what I'd destroyed, and that meant getting comfortable with a very different approach to gardening. My first move was to stop tilling. This was harder than it sounds because turning over fresh soil in spring had always felt like the official start of the growing season, but tilling destroys soil structure and kills beneficial fungi, so I had to let go of that ritual. Instead, I started building soil from the top down. I began adding compost, not as an amendment to mix in, but as a top dressing that would slowly incorporate itself through the activity of worms and other soil organisms. I learned to make compost tea, which initially seemed like hippie nonsense to my chemical-dependent mind, but watching plants respond to these microbial inoculations was genuinely eye-opening. Within weeks of my first application, I noticed a difference in plant vigor that my expensive bottles had never delivered. I won't sugarcoat this. The first growing season after going cold turkey on chemicals was, well, pretty rough. My plants went through what I can only describe as withdrawal. They'd been conditioned to receive readily available nutrients, and suddenly, they had to develop proper root systems and relationships with soil microbes to get fed. Some plants struggled, that's for sure. My tomato yields dropped that first year, and I had moments of doubt where I almost reached for those old bottles in my garage. But something interesting was happening beneath the surface. My soil was coming alive. I started seeing more earthworms, which became my indicator of soil health. The dirt that had been hard and lifeless was becoming crumbly and rich. When it rained, water soaked in instead of running off. I was learning to measure success differently, focusing on soil health metrics rather than just plant size. By my second year of biological soil management, something remarkable happened. My plants became resilient in ways they'd never been before. When a heatwave hit, my neighbor's chemically fed garden wilted while mine adapted. When pests showed up, I had beneficial insects ready to handle them because I'd stopped killing everything indiscriminately. My plants developed deeper root systems that could access nutrients and water that surface-feeding, chemically dependent roots never reached. The financial shift was equally dramatic. I calculated that I'd been spending nearly $800 annually on fertilizers, pesticides, and amendments. Now my main expenses were compost materials, many of which I sourced for free or made myself, and occasional cover crop seeds. I was spending maybe $100 a year and honestly, getting better results. The time investment changed too. Instead of being on a rigid fertilizing and spraying schedule, I was working with natural cycles, which actually freed up my weekends. Today I don't consider myself just a gardener anymore. I'm a microbe farmer who happens to grow vegetables. My focus has completely shifted from managing plants to cultivating soil life. I feed the soil, and the soil feeds my plants. I've incorporated practices like cover cropping, mulching, and minimal disturbance that would have seemed excessive to my former self. But, these practices have created a garden ecosystem that largely takes care of itself. The quality difference is undeniable. My vegetables taste better because they're accessing a full spectrum of nutrients through biological processes rather than just the basic NPK of synthetic fertilizers. My soil holds water through droughts and drains well during wet periods because it has the structure that only living soil can create. I rarely deal with pest problems because my plants are healthy enough to defend themselves, and I've attracted a diverse population of beneficial insects. If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my old chemical junkie ways, I want you to know that transformation is possible. You don't have to make every change at once. Start small, stop tilling one bed, add compost to another, skip the synthetic fertilizer on a section and see what happens. The soil wants to be alive, we just need to stop killing it and give it the chance to recover. This journey from chemical dependency to biological soil management has completely changed how I garden and how I think about my relationship with the earth beneath my feet. It's been the most rewarding shift I've made as a gardener, and I'm excited to share every step of this ongoing journey with you here on Grow with Soil. If this story resonates with you, I'd love to hear about your own soil journey in the comments below. And if you're ready to start your own transformation from chemical junkie to microbe farmer, hit that subscribe button so we can learn and grow together. Share this with a fellow gardener who might need to hear that there's a better way. Let's build healthier soil, one garden at a time.